Welcome. I am so glad you found your way here to this quiet space of learning and gentle rest. Tonight, there is nowhere else you need to be and nothing else you need to do. For the next while, we are simply going to explore the wonders of the world and the universe, allowing the weight of the day to lift away one quiet fact at a time. We often hear people talk about positive energy, and while that can mean many things, in the world of science and biology, we can look at it as a very real, very physical neurochemical process. It is the specific state your body enters when it moves away from the stresses of survival and into the grace of restoration. It is the chemistry of relaxation. As you begin to settle into your blankets, your brain is already doing something remarkable. Even if you feel a little restless, your mind is instinctively seeking out signs of safety and predictability. Throughout the day, our brains are high-performance machines, scanning for problems to solve and tasks to complete. But as the evening deepens, the brain begins to crave a different kind of input. It looks for steady rhythms, soft tones, and a lack of sudden changes. When your environment becomes predictable and calm, your amygdala, the part of the brain that watches for tension, finally begins to power down. It signals to the rest of your system that the perimeter is secure, the day's work is finished, and it is safe to let go of the guard you've been holding. If you find that this space and these quiet reflections help you find your way toward rest, I invite you to softly subscribe to the channel, or perhaps leave a gentle comment when you wake. It is a lovely way to stay connected to this community of quiet learners, and it helps ensure that this peaceful corner of the world remains here whenever you need it. As you lie there, perhaps noticing the rhythm of your own breathing, your brain is activating a fascinating system known as the default mode network. For most of your waking life, when you are focused on a specific goal like driving, working, or even reading a difficult book, this network stays in the background. But the moment you stop doing and start being, the default mode network quietly takes the stage. It is the neurological home of daydreaming, self-reflection, and quiet contemplation. When this network activates, it's a sign that your brain is no longer consuming energy to interact with the outside world. Instead, it is turning inward to organize your thoughts and settle your spirit. It is the very first step on the bridge to sleep. This shift in your brain's electrical activity is just the beginning. As the busy parts of your mind grow quiet, they make room for a different kind of influence. We are moving away from the sharp, urgent signals of the afternoon and into the soft, liquid chemistry of a truly calm mind. It starts with the simplest of things, even something as small as a gentle thought or a faint, lingering smile. Consider for a moment the simple, physical act of a smile. Even if it is just the slightest upward curve of the corners of your mouth or a soft relaxing of the muscles around your eyes, this small movement carries an immense amount of biological power. There is a concept in psychology known as the facial feedback hypothesis, which suggests that the relationship between our expressions and our emotions is a two-way street. We don't just smile because we are happy. The very act of smiling sends a signal back to the brain that everything is okay. It is a biological feedback loop. When those specific muscles, the zygomaticus major and the orbicularis oculi soften and lift. They trigger a cascade of neuropeptides that communicate a sense of safety to your entire system. It is your body's way of whispering to itself that the time for guarding and vigilance has passed. As this signal of safety spreads, it invites one of the most comforting molecules in human biology to take center stage: oxytocin. You may have heard oxytocin referred to as the cuddle hormone or the bonding molecule. And while it is certainly famous for its role in social connection and touch, its influence on your sleep is far more profound than many realize. Oxytocin is produced in the hypothalamus and released by the posterior pituitary gland, and one of its primary jobs is to act as a natural buffer against stress. Specifically, it works to lower levels of cortisol, the hormone that keeps us alert, focused, and sometimes anxious during the day. Think of oxytocin as a warm, heavy little blanket for your internal chemistry. As its levels rise, the sharp, jagged edges of cortisol begin to smooth out. Your heart rate finds a gentler rhythm, and the fight or flight signals that may have lingered from a busy afternoon start to fade away into the background. The most beautiful part of this process is how accessible it is to you right now, in the quiet of your room. You don't need an external event to trigger this sense of calm. Scientific studies have shown that the human brain is so finely tuned to the concept of kindness that even imagining a gentle interaction can stimulate a release of oxytocin. If you take a moment to visualize a memory of a loved one's smile, the feeling of a pet resting its head on your lap, or even a time when someone was unexpectedly kind to you, your brain responds as if that event is happening in real time. By holding on to that soft, pleasant image, you're effectively self-soothing at a molecular level. You are choosing to flood your system with the chemistry of rest. As these hormones begin their quiet work, let your physical body follow their lead. If you feel any lingering tension in your neck or shoulders, take this moment to gently adjust your pillow. Perhaps tuck it a little more firmly beneath the curve of your neck, or find a fresh, cool spot for your cheek to rest. Become aware of the weight of your body as it presses down into the mattress. There is a profound sense of relief in finally stopping the effort of holding yourself up. Let the bed take the full weight of your limbs, your heavy arms, your steady torso, your legs. Feel the texture of the fabric against your skin and the subtle warmth trapped beneath the covers. You are grounded, you are supported, and you are exactly where you need to be. This shift we are experiencing, moving from the abstract thoughts of the mind into the tangible sensations of the body, is governed by more than just hormones. While oxytocin provides the chemical atmosphere for rest, your physical structure has its own dedicated system for maintaining this peace. We are now moving away from the liquid chemistry of the blood and into the electrical world of the nervous system. Running like a hidden thread from the base of your brain down through the core of your body is a vast network of fibers that acts as your personal superhighway of calm. It is a physical bridge between your mind and your heart. And as you continue to settle, it is preparing to guide you into an even deeper state of equilibrium. This superhighway of calm is known as the vagus nerve, and it is one of the most remarkable structures in the human body. The word vagus actually comes from the Latin word for wandering and it is aptly named. It begins at the base of your brain and wanders through your chest, touching your heart, your lungs, and your digestive system, acting as a two-way communication line between your mind and your vital organs. It is the primary commander of your parasympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for what scientists call rest and digest. Think of your nervous system as having two primary gears. Throughout the day, we often find ourselves in the sympathetic gear, the gas pedal that helps us meet deadlines, navigate traffic, and react to the world around us. But as you prepare for sleep, your body begins to shift into the parasympathetic gear. This is the gentle brake that allows your muscles to soften, your digestion to settle, and your mind to uncoil. The vagus nerve is the conductor of this shift, sending electrical impulses that tell your body the all-clear signal has been given. It is the physical manifestation of safety. There is a fascinating biological secret hidden in the way you breathe that allows you to talk directly to this nerve. When you inhale, your heart rate actually speeds up just a tiny bit as your lungs expand. But when you breathe out, especially if that exhale is longer and slower than the inhale, the vagus nerve releases a substance called acetylcholine. This chemical is like a soft, cooling mist for your heart, telling it to slow down and find its resting pace. By simply extending your breath, you are manually activating your body's relaxation response. You are taking the reins of your own biology and guiding it toward stillness. As you continue to lie there, you might notice your body taking a deep, involuntary breath that ends in a long, trailing exhale. This is often referred to as a physiological sigh. It is a beautiful moment of payoff where your heart rate variability stabilizes and your internal systems reach a state of equilibrium. You might feel a sudden wave of heaviness in your limbs, a sign that the electrical tension in your muscles is finally discharging. This is the feeling of your body finally letting go of the day's demands and trusting the support of the surface beneath you. With the internal environment now quiet and the heart beating at a steady, peaceful rhythm, the brain begins to change its focus. It no longer needs to monitor your internal organs for signs of stress. Instead, it turns its attention outward, beginning a sophisticated process of filtering the world around you. Even as you drift closer to sleep, your mind remains a vigilant protector, carefully deciding which sounds and sensations are important and which can be safely woven into the background of your dreams. It is preparing to build a protective barrier of silence, ensuring that your journey into deeper rest remains undisturbed. As you settle further into this state of physical calm, you might notice the subtle sounds of the room around you. Perhaps it's the hum of a cooling fan, the distant rhythmic patter of rain against a window pane, or simply the soft weight of the silence itself. Have you ever wondered why these steady, repetitive sounds feel so incredibly protective? There is a deep biological reason for this comfort. We often think of silence as the absence of noise, but for the human brain, a perfectly silent room can sometimes feel like a void that demands a high state of alertness. In contrast, constant and predictable sounds act as a form of acoustic camouflage. Your brain is naturally tuned to be an anomaly detector. It isn't necessarily the volume of a sound that startles you or wakes you up. It is the sudden change in volume. A single floorboard creaking in a silent house is a sharp stick of data that demands your immediate attention. But when you are surrounded by the steady broadband frequency of falling rain or the gentle whir of a machine, those small spikes are smoothed over. They become lost in the texture of the background. This creates a sonic blanket that allows your mind to stop scanning the environment for sudden changes. Because the sound is predictable and unchanging, your brain decides it is safe to stop processing it. It is a beautiful paradox. By giving your ears something constant to hold on to, you give your mind the permission to let go. Deep within your brain, nestled just above the brainstem, there is a small vital structure called the thalamus. You can think of the thalamus as the great gatekeeper of your consciousness. During your waking hours, it acts like a bustling switchboard, receiving a constant stream of signals from your eyes, your ears, and your skin, and routing them to the parts of the brain that help you perceive and react to the world. But as you transition toward sleep, the thalamus begins to change its behavior. It starts to produce rhythmic electrical pulses that effectively close the gate to the outside world. It becomes a filter, deciding which sensory inputs are worthy of reaching your conscious mind and which can be safely discarded. When this gate begins to close, a remarkable transition occurs. The physical world begins to recede. The distant sounds of the street, the ticking of a clock, or even the feeling of the air moving in the room, all of these signals still reach the thalamus, but they are no longer forwarded to the higher centers of your brain. You remain physically present in your bed, but your consciousness has moved to a private inner sanctuary. It is a moment of profound trust. Your brain has determined that your environment is secure enough to disconnect from the here and now. This is the threshold of true rest, where the external world fades into a soft, indistinct blur. As the gatekeeper of the thalamus dims the volume of the world, your other senses begin to follow suit, turning inward. The visual system, which consumes a vast amount of your mental energy during the day, starts to wind down its activity. Even behind your closed eyelids, your brain is processing the transition from the vibrant, busy colors of the day to the deep, restorative velvet of the dark. This shift into darkness is not just an absence of light. It is a signal to your biology that the time for navigation and analysis has ended. As the light fades, your mind begins to seek out different kinds of shapes. Not the sharp edges of objects, but the soft, flowing patterns of the imagination. Your eyes rest, and the world outside becomes a memory. Your mind begins to engage with a different kind of focus, one that psychologists call soft fascination. Throughout the day, your brain is often forced into a state of directed attention. This is the sharp, demanding focus required to read an email, navigate traffic, or solve a difficult problem. It is a high-energy state that relies heavily on your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive function and decision-making. But by the time evening arrives, this system often becomes exhausted, leading to what researchers call directed attention fatigue. It's that heavy, scattered feeling where even simple choices feel like a burden, and your ability to concentrate begins to fray at the edges. Soft fascination is the natural antidote to this fatigue. It occurs when your attention is captured not by something urgent or stressful, but by something naturally interesting and non-threatening. Think of the way your gaze might linger on the rhythmic sway of tree branches against a twilight sky, or the slow, shifting shapes of clouds as they drift across a darkening horizon. These patterns are often what scientists call fractals, complex, repeating shapes that are found everywhere in nature, from the veins of a leaf to the patterns of frost on a window. Because these patterns are predictable yet slightly varied, they provide just enough stimulation to keep the mind from wandering into worry, but not so much that they require any active thought or analysis. When you experience soft fascination, the prefrontal cortex finally gets the chance to go quiet. It's like a tearlid muscle finally being allowed to stretch and go limp. As this happens, your brain begins to recover its mental energy. The noise of the day starts to settle, replaced by a sense of quiet clarity. You aren't trying to achieve anything, you are simply observing. This gentle engagement acts as a bridge, leading you away from the analytical world of doing and into the peaceful world of being. It is a form of cognitive restoration, a way for the brain to replenish its resources while you are still awake, preparing you for the deeper restoration that sleep provides. This state of mental clarity is the final preparation for true rest. It's the feeling of a clean slate, where the thoughts that were once so loud and demanding now seem small and distant. You may find that your internal monologue begins to slow down, the words becoming fewer and the pauses between them becoming longer. Your mind is no longer searching for answers or planning for tomorrow. It is simply resting in the present moment, held by the soft, natural rhythms of your own imagination. You are drifting closer to that point where the conscious mind hands over the reins to the subconscious. As this mental stillness deepens, it triggers a response in a different part of your biology, a system that doesn't rely on what you see, but on the very absence of light. Your body has its own internal sunset, a series of chemical changes that have been synchronized with the rising and falling of the sun for millions of years. Even now, in the quiet of your room, your brain is sensing the shift in the environment, preparing to transition from the clarity of the mind to the deep restorative chemistry of the body, guided by a tiny pine cone-shaped gland. When the environment softens into the warm, amber tones of evening, the pineal gland receives its cue. It begins to quietly synthesize melatonin, a hormone that serves as the chemical messenger of the dark. As this melatonin begins to circulate through your bloodstream, it carries a message to every cell in your body. It is time to slow down. It is time to let go of the day's momentum. But melatonin is much more than just a signal for sleep. In the world of biology, it is recognized as a remarkably powerful antioxidant, far more potent than many of the nutrients we find in our food. As you rest, this molecule travels through your brain, seeking out the oxidative stress and metabolic noise that has built up during your hours of activity. It works like a gentle, nightly cleaning crew, repairing cellular structures and protecting your neurons from the wear and tear of daily life. This process of restoration is happening entirely on your behalf, without you needing to lift a finger. Your body is inherently designed to heal and protect itself while you remain in a state of quiet peace. Knowing that this deep molecular care is underway, you might find it easier to let your muscles soften even further. Take a slow, deep breath in, feeling the cool air fill your lungs, and then release it slowly, mimicking the long, steady exhale of someone in a deep, restorative sleep. As you breathe out, imagine the internal sunset within you reaching its final, most peaceful stage. The colors of your thoughts are shifting from the bright, busy yellows and oranges of the afternoon into the deep, soothing indigos and violets of a quiet night. Your mind is being bathed in a chemical hush, preparing the way for dreams and deep recovery. This internal rhythm is not a coincidence. It is a direct reflection of the world outside your window. For as long as life has existed on this planet, it has been shaped by the steady, predictable rotation of the Earth. Our bodies have learned to mirror the movement of the globe, creating a biological harmony between our internal chemistry and the vast cycles of the solar system. We are not just living on the Earth, we are living in step with it, guided by an ancient circular dance of light and shadow that connects our smallest cells to the turning of the world itself. As the planet rotates away from the sun, pulling the blanket of night across the landscape, your own biological systems are following suit, entering a state of synchronization with the 24-hour cycle of the cosmos. This 24-hour cycle, which we call the circadian rhythm, is the invisible thread that weaves our lives into the fabric of the planet. The word circadian comes from the Latin roots circa, meaning about, and diem, meaning day. It is an ancient internal metronome that has been ticking within living organisms for billions of years, aligning our life force with the steady, predictable rising and setting of the sun. While we often think of sleep as something the brain simply decides to do when it is tired, the reality is far more intricate and wondrous. Every single cell in your body, from the ones in your fingertips to the ones deep within your vital organs, possesses its own microscopic molecular clock. These clocks are driven by a delicate dance of proteins that build up and break down in a precise rhythmic loop, ensuring that every part of you, down to the smallest fiber, knows exactly what time it is. Imagine these trillions of tiny clocks all ticking away in the quiet darkness of your body. To keep them all working in perfect harmony, the brain employs a master conductor. This is a tiny, remarkable region within the hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. Though it is no larger than a grain of rice, containing only about 20,000 neurons, its influence is vast and absolute. The SCN sits just above the point where the optic nerves cross, allowing it to receive direct, real-time information about the light levels in your environment. It acts as the ultimate bridge between the world outside and the world within, translating the fading light of evening into a series of chemical instructions that synchronize your entire being with the approaching night. When the SCN perceives the arrival of darkness, it sends out a silent signal that ripples through your system, orchestrating a grand symphony of relaxation. It tells your core body temperature to drop slightly, your digestion to slow, and your heart rate to find a steady, calm pace. There is a profound comfort in realizing that you do not need to consciously manage any of this. You do not need to command your cells to rest or your heart to soften its beat. Your body is an expert in the art of recovery. It has a deep ancestral memory of how to find its way back to stillness, like a ship returning to a calm harbor after a long journey at sea. Your biology knows the coordinates of peace by heart. You can simply exist, letting the current of your own nature carry you toward sleep. As you lie there, feeling the gentle weight of your limbs and the slow, rhythmic rise and fall of your chest, you can trust in the competence of your own biology. You are being held by a biological tide that has never failed to turn. This sense of rhythmic timing is a gift from the earth itself, a reflection of the planetary patterns that govern all life. And as we look beyond the boundaries of our own skin, we find that we are not alone in this nightly transition. The same master clock that guides your rest is also whispering to the world outside, setting the stage for a different kind of activity in the natural kingdom. Just as your cells are dimming their lights and preparing for restoration, the botanical world is beginning its own quiet nocturnal transformation, responding to the same ancient call of the rotating earth. The trees, the flowers, and the hidden life of the garden are all settling into their own unique versions of rest. As the sun dips below the horizon and the air begins to cool, a quiet, almost invisible choreography begins in the world of plants. We often think of flora as static, rooted firmly in place, but they possess a secret life that unfolds only when the world grows still. If you were to watch a garden in time-lapse as night falls, you would see a gentle, rhythmic folding. This is a phenomenon known as nyctinasty, a word derived from the Greek for night and pressing close. It is the biological process where plants close their leaves or petals as if they too are settling down for a long, restorative sleep. Imagine a field of clover or the delicate leaves of a mimosa tree. As the light fall fades, these leaves don't just limp. They move with purpose. They tilt upward or fold downward, tucking themselves away. This movement is not driven by muscles, but by a beautiful and simple mechanism of physics. At the base of each leaf or leaflet is a tiny joint-like structure called a pulvinus. Within these structures, the plant carefully shifts the flow of water. By moving potassium ions between cells, the plant forces water to follow, changing the internal pressure, what scientists call turgor pressure. As the cells on one side of the joint lose water and shrink, while the others remain full, the leaf is pulled into its nocturnal position. It is a slow hydraulic sigh, a physical response to the rhythm of the day ending. You might wonder why a plant would expend energy to move in this way. Evolution rarely does anything without a reason, and for plants, this nightly tucking in serves several vital purposes. For flowering plants, closing their petals can be a way to protect their precious pollen. By sealing themselves shut, they keep the nighttime dew from dampening the pollen, ensuring it remains dry and viable for the pollinators that will arrive with the morning sun. For others, it is a matter of warmth. By folding their leaves, they reduce the surface area exposed to the cool night air, helping to conserve the heat they gathered during the day. It is a form of botanical self-care, a way to shield their most delicate parts from the elements while they wait for the return of the light. There is a profound sense of peace in knowing that even the grass beneath us and the flowers on the windowsill are participating in this global slowing down. They are not merely waiting, they are actively preparing, responding to the same celestial cues that tell your own body it is time to rest. This botanical rest is not a sign of weakness, but a strategy for resilience. It is how they gather the strength to reach toward the sun once more. As we move our focus away from the garden and deeper into the hushed, ancient shadows of the forest, this sense of quiet activity only deepens. In the woods, the scale of this biological energy changes. Here, among the giants, the rest is not just individual, but communal. The trees around us are not just solitary pillars of wood and leaf. They are part of a vast interconnected system that hums with a low, steady energy even in the deepest part of the night. To understand the true depth of this calm, we must look below the surface of the soil into the dark, cool earth where a different kind of magic is happening. Here, in the silence of the forest floor, a hidden network is at work, fostering a spirit of cooperation that ensures every living thing is supported through the darkness. Beneath the layers of fallen leaves and the soft, damp moss of the forest floor, there exists a world far more complex and cooperative than we might ever imagine. Scientists often call it the Wood Wide Web, a vast subterranean social network that connects the trees in a silent, ancient embrace. This isn't just a collection of individual plants standing side by side. It is a living, breathing community that works together to ensure the survival of the whole. At the heart of this network are mycorrhizal fungi. These are tiny, delicate threads of life. So thin, they are almost invisible to the naked eye, that weave themselves into the very tips of the tree roots. It is a beautiful, symbiotic relationship. The trees, having spent the day bathing in sunlight, create energy in the form of sugars through photosynthesis. They share a portion of these sugars with the fungi, which cannot produce their own food. In return, the fungi act like a massive extension of the tree's root system. Their mycelial threads are far more efficient at mining the soil, reaching deep into the tiniest crevices to find water and essential minerals like phosphorus and nitrogen, which they deliver back to the tree. But the cooperation goes even deeper than a simple trade of food for minerals. Through this fungal highway, the trees actually communicate with one another. They send chemical signals and vital nutrients across the forest floor, reaching out to those in need. It is a documented scientific fact that older, larger trees, often called mother trees, will use this network to send extra sugar and resources to smaller saplings struggling in the deep shade of the canopy. If a tree is being attacked by insects or is suffering from disease, it can send a chemical warning through the roots, allowing its neighbors to bolster their own immune systems and prepare their chemical defenses before the threat even reaches them. There is something deeply comforting about this quiet, hidden generosity. As you lie there, drifting closer to sleep, you can imagine this pulse of positive energy moving slowly through the cool earth. It is a world of mutual support, where the strong lift up the weak, and no tree truly stands alone. Even in the stillness of the night, when the forest seems most quiet, this life-sustaining exchange continues. a slow, steady heartbeat of cooperation that keeps the entire ecosystem in balance. This sense of community creates a profound stability. The forest is not a place of frantic competition, but a sanctuary of shared resources and collective resilience. It reminds us that rest is safer when we are connected, and that there is a natural architecture designed to hold everything together. The energy of the forest isn't just in the wood and the leaves, it's in the relationships between them, a silver web of connection that thrives in the dark, cool silence of the soil. As we let our minds rest on these deep, supportive roots, we can begin to lift our awareness back up. We move away from the dark richness of the earth, past the sturdy, protective bark of the trunks, and up into the space between the branches. The air here is changing. It is becoming heavier, cooler, and filled with a new kind of energy. The stillness of the ground is meeting the gentle movement of the atmosphere, and as a soft dampness begins to settle over the woods, the very scent of the forest begins to shift, signaling another one of nature's most soothing and ancient transformations. As the dampness settles, a very specific earthy fragrance begins to rise from the forest floor. It is a scent that almost everyone recognizes, yet few can name. Scientists call it petrichor. The word itself has a poetic origin, derived from the Greek petra, meaning sun and ichor, the ethereal fluid that was said to flow in the veins of the gods. It is the scent of life returning to the earth, a fragrance that signals the arrival of rain and the quenching of the land. This scent isn't just a trick of the mind, it is a complex chemical interaction. Deep within the soil we just explored, tiny bacteria called actinomycetes are hard at work. As they break down organic matter, they produce a metabolic byproduct known as geosmin. When the first drops of a gentle rain strike the parched ground, they trap tiny bubbles of air at the point of impact. These bubbles then rise rapidly and burst, releasing a fine mist of geosmin into the air, where the wind carries it to our senses. It is a remarkable testament to our biology that the human nose is incredibly sensitive to this molecule. We can detect geosmin at concentrations as low as 5 parts per trillion. To put that in perspective, we are significantly more sensitive to the smell of wet earth than a shark is to a single drop of blood in a vast ocean. Evolution has tuned our senses this way over millions of years. For our ancestors, the scent of petrichor was a sign of hope. It meant that water was near, that plants would grow, and that the environment was once again becoming lush and supportive. It is an ancient, coded message that says, "You are safe here. Life is thriving." Take a moment now to imagine that scent. It is cool, clean, and deeply grounding. With every slow, quiet breath you take, imagine that fresh, post-rain air filling your lungs. Feel the way the coolness moves through your body, calming the nerves and softening any lingering tension in your shoulders. Your body knows this scent. It knows this feeling of replenishment. You are simply resting in a world that is being washed clean, a world that is breathing alongside you. As the scent of petrichor lingers in the quiet air, the forest continues to settle. The moisture in the air doesn't just change the way things smell, it changes the way the entire atmosphere behaves. Above the canopy, the sky is wide and open, and the heat of the day is beginning to drift away, rising upward and outward into the great expanse. The earth is letting go of its warmth, and the air is responding with a gentle, rhythmic shift of its own. We are moving now from the fragrant soil and the damp leaves, looking upward toward the vast, cooling envelope of the atmosphere that surrounds us all, watching as the energy of the world finds a new, quiet equilibrium. If you could watch the earth from a great distance, you might see the atmosphere as something alive, a vast, invisible lung that breathes in rhythm with the sun. During the day, as the sun's rays pour down upon us, the atmosphere expands. The air grows warm, the molecules move faster, and the Earth's crust drinks in that golden energy, storing it deep within the soil, the stones, and the vast concrete spans of our cities. But as the sun dips below the horizon and the shadows lengthen into the soft blues and purples of twilight, a beautiful, silent process begins. The earth begins to exhale. This is the start of the internal sunset, a time when the planet releases the heat it has gathered throughout the day. It is a gentle letting go, a shedding of energy that allows the world to find its way back to a state of rest. As you lie there, perfectly still, imagine the ground beneath your home slowly radiating its warmth upward. This heat doesn't just disappear. It travels through the air in the form of infrared light, invisible ribbons of energy rising toward the stars. This process is what scientists call radiative cooling. On a clear, quiet night, there is nothing to trap this heat, no thick blanket of clouds to bounce it back toward the surface. Instead, the energy simply slips away into the cold vacuum of space. This is why the air feels so remarkably crisp and sharp in the hours before dawn. It is a purified air, one that has been stilled by the departure of the sun's agitation. As the ground cools, the air directly above it cools as well, becoming denser and heavier. It settles into the low places of the world, the valleys, the meadows, and the quiet streets, creating a layer of profound stillness. This is why, in the deep of the night, the wind often seems to hold its breath. The atmosphere has reached a momentary truce with the elements. The turbulence of the afternoon, driven by rising heat and shifting pressures, has smoothed out into a calm, glassy equilibrium. It is the Earth's way of finding its center, a nightly reset that ensures the planet doesn't grow too warm or too cold. It is a balance maintained by the simple, elegant laws of physics, a reminder that there is a natural order to the way things rest. Feel that stillness now in your own space. Just as the atmosphere settles into its quietest state, your own body is finding its equilibrium. The heat of your day, the movement, the effort, the thoughts, is radiating away, leaving you with a sense of cool, clear calm. You are part of this grand planetary seesaw. You are drifting toward that same point of perfect balance where the air is still and the world is at peace. But while the air above us settles into this motionless state, the world is not entirely still. Energy never truly disappears. It simply changes form and moves to new places. As we move our focus away from the cooling crust and the silent, crisp air of the land, we find ourselves drawn toward the edges of the continents, where the solid earth meets the fluid, ever-moving embrace of the sea. Even when the wind is silent and the air is chilled, the water remains in constant rhythmic motion, carrying its own stories of energy and rest. The physics of the atmosphere are mirrored in the gentle, pulsing physics of the water. And it is there, at the shoreline, that we find a different kind of heartbeat, one that has been steady and unchanging for billions of years. The rhythm of the ocean is perhaps the most ancient lullaby on our planet. As you stand at the edge of the shore in your mind, you can hear the steady pulsing breath of the tide. This is not merely the sound of water, it is the sound of energy that has traveled across vast distances to reach this single point of contact. To understand the physics of a wave is to understand the persistence of motion and the beauty of equilibrium. When you look at a wave rolling toward the sand, it's easy to imagine that the water itself is traveling from the middle of the ocean toward the land. But in reality, the water stays largely in the same place. If you were to watch a single molecule of seawater as a wave passes by, you would see it move in a gentle, perfect circle, rising up, sliding forward, dipping down, and then returning almost exactly to where it began. The water is simply the medium. What is actually moving is a pulse of kinetic energy, a vibration born from the wind thousands of miles away. A storm in the middle of the Atlantic or the vast Pacific transfers its restless power to the surface of the sea. That energy can then travel for days, crossing thousands of miles of open water without ever losing its shape. It is a remarkable feat of physics, a message of motion sent from one side of the world to the other. When that wave finally reaches the shallow water near the shore, the bottom of the circular motion hits the rising seabed. The wave slows down, its top leans forward, and it finally exhales, spilling its energy onto the sand in a soft white foam. There is a profound biological reason why this sound helps us drift into a deep, restorative sleep. Scientists have noted that the interval between the breaking of waves, the rhythmic whoosh and hush, often occurs at a frequency of about 6 to 8 cycles per minute. This rhythm matches the respiratory rate of a human being in a state of deep, relaxed sleep. When we listen to the ocean, our own internal systems begin to synchronize with it. Our heart rate slows, our breathing deepens, and our brain waves begin to mimic the slow, steady pulse of the tide. This is a phenomenon known as acoustic entrainment, where our bodies find a natural harmony with the environment around us. It is a curious thing that we find the ocean so incredibly soothing. By all accounts, the sea is an environment of staggering scale and power, vast, deep, and untamable. Yet, for most of us, looking out at the horizon brings an immediate sense of safety and blue mind, a mildly meditative state characterized by calm, unity, and a sense of general happiness. Evolutionary psychologists suggest this may be because, for our ancestors, the sound of water signaled a place of life and abundance. To hear the waves was to know you were in a place where you could survive. As you listen to that imagined tide, let your breathing follow its lead. Inhale as the swell rises and exhale as it washes over the shore. The energy that began as a distant wind has found its final resting place here at the edge of the world turning into a gentle vibration that carries you further away from the noise of the day. But the surface of the ocean is only the beginning of the story. Beneath those rhythmic swells, the water grows deeper and the light begins to fade as we move away from the shore and descend into the lightless depths of the open sea. The physics of the world change once again. In the crushing pressure and the total darkness of the abyss, the energy of life doesn't disappear. It simply finds a new, more mysterious way to glow. Far below the reach of the sun, a different kind of light is waiting to be discovered, a soft, pulsing radiance that turns the deep ocean into a mirror of the starry sky above. Imagine the deep ocean. It is a place of absolute heavy stillness. The sunlight has long since faded away, absorbed by the thousands of feet of water above. At these depths, there is no day or night, only a perpetual velvet twilight. But as your mind adjusts to this inner space, you begin to see something extraordinary. A tiny sark of sapphire blue, then a slow rhythmic pulse of emerald. This is the living light of the deep ocean, a phenomenon we call bioluminescence. It is a light unlike any we use in our homes. When we turn on a lamp, much of the energy is lost as heat, but the light created by these deep-sea residents is what scientists call cold light. It is the result of a precise, elegant chemical reaction between a molecule called luciferin and an enzyme called luciferase. Because it produces almost no heat, it is one of the most efficient forms of energy in the known universe. It is a gentle, chemical glow that emanates from within the very cells of the creatures themselves, a biological lantern carried through the dark. If you were to drift through this dark, watery void, you would soon realize that you are not in a desert of darkness, but in a vast, floating garden of light. Marine biologists estimate that roughly 76% of deep-sea creatures, from the smallest microscopic plankton to the most graceful, translucent jellyfish, produce their own radiance. When the water is disturbed, the abyss can erupt in a silent firework display of shimmering turquoise. Some creatures use this light to find their way through the darkness, while others use it to signal to one another, creating a silent, glowing language of flashes and fades that speaks across the canyons of the sea floor. From this perspective, the deep ocean begins to look remarkably like the cosmos. It is a starry sky underwater, where galaxies of glowing organisms drift slowly in the current. There are tiny jellies that trail long, glowing ribbons like the tails of comets, and schools of fish that shimmer with a rhythmic pulsing light resembling distant nebula. It is a world of soft, glowing pulses, a reminder that even in the darkest, coldest corners of our planet, life finds a way to create its own beauty and its own sense of direction. As you visualize these gentle, pulsing lights, feel the weight of your body settling even deeper into your rest. Just as the creatures of the abyss are supported by the vast cradling pressure of the ocean, you are supported by the stillness of this moment. The darkness here isn't empty. It is a space for restoration, a quiet sanctuary where the energy of the world slows down to a shimmer. Slowly, we begin to rise back up from the depths. We leave the glowing gardens of the deep and ascend through the cooling layers of the sea. We pass through the twilight zone, where the faint blue light of the surface begins to return, and we break through the skin of the water once more. The air is crisp and the waves are quiet. We turn our gaze upward, away from the hidden lights of the deep toward the great silver beacon that rules the night sky. High above the horizon, hanging in the velvet expanse of space, the moon is waiting, casting its steady ancient light across the world. The moon hangs there, a silent, silver guardian in the velvet sky. It feels distant, a lonely wanderer in the dark, yet its presence is felt in every corner of our world, from the deepest trenches of the ocean we just left to the very air we breathe. This silver orb does much more than simply reflect the sun's light or pull the tides across the sand. It acts as an invisible hand, reaching across the vacuum of space to keep our planet steady, providing a sense of cosmic order that allows life to flourish in peace. To understand this gentle influence, imagine the Earth as a spinning top, rotating on its axis as it journeys around the sun. Left entirely to its own devices, a spinning object can easily begin to wobble. For a planet, even a slight increase in that wobble could mean the difference between a habitable world and one of chaotic extremes. This is where the moon plays its most vital, quiet role. Its gravitational pull acts as a stabilizer, a constant, soothing weight that prevents the Earth's tilt from shifting too drastically. Scientists often refer to the moon as our gravitational anchor. Because of this anchor, the Earth maintains a relatively steady tilt of about 23.5 degrees, ensuring that our seasons follow a predictable rhythmic cycle. Without the moon's steadying influence, the Earth's axis would likely tilt wildly over millions of years, sometimes leaning far over toward the sun, and at other times standing straight up. The consequences of such a wobble would be profound. Our seasons would become unrecognizable. One era might see a 1,000-year winter that freezes the tropics, while another might bring a sun that never sets at the poles, scorching the land in a permanent summer. The stability we take for granted, the coming of spring after the cold and the cooling of autumn after the heat, is a gift from the moon. It provides the rhythm that the natural world uses to set its internal clocks, allowing plants to know when to bloom and animals to know when to rest. As you lie there, take a moment to feel the profound stability this creates. The ground beneath you isn't just solid. It is held in a magnificent cosmic balance. Even as the Earth moves through space at incredible speeds, it remains steady and upright, cradled by the gravity of its lunar companion. Feel the weight of your shoulders sinking into your mattress, the way your head is supported by the pillow, and the way the air moves softly in and out of your lungs. You are a part of this stable system. Just as the moon keeps the planet from wobbling, let your mind release any sense of instability or hurry. You are anchored here, safe and held by the same forces that keep the stars in their places. The light of the moon is soft and cool, a gentle illumination that doesn't demand our attention, but rather invites us to look deeper into the night. It bathes the world in a monochromatic glow, softening the edges of the trees and turning the surface of the lakes into shimmering mirrors. It is a light that doesn't wake the world, but rather watches over it as it sleeps. But as we look past the silver disk of the moon, we see that it is only the closest light in a vast, dark gallery. Beyond its familiar glow, the sky is filled with millions of tiny pinpricks of light, each one a sun in its own right, burning in the far reaches of the galaxy. These distant lights have a different story to tell, one of immense distances and incredible journeys. While the moon's light reaches us in just over a second, the light from the stars has traveled a path so long it is difficult for the human mind to fully grasp. We turn our focus now away from our local neighbor and toward the deep, ancient light of the stars, beginning with the journey of a single, tiny photon. Imagine, for a moment, a single particle of light. We call it a photon. This tiny, weightless traveler was born in the heart of a distant star, perhaps trillions of miles away from where you are resting right now. For thousands of years, it bounced around inside that star, struggling to reach the surface. But once it finally broke free, it began a journey of incredible proportions. It leaped into the dark, silent vacuum of space, traveling at the ultimate speed 186,000 miles every single second. And at this unimaginable speed here, the distances between the stars are so vast that this photon may have been traveling for a very long time. It moved through the absolute cold of the void, past swirling clouds of gas and the remnants of ancient supernovae, never slowing, never wavering. It crossed the lonely stretches of nothingness that lie between the galaxies, a tiny spark of energy on a mission to reach you. When you look up at a star, that photon finally completes its journey, landing gently on your eye. But there's a beautiful, quiet truth in this arrival. Because light takes time to travel, you are never seeing the stars as they are in this exact moment. Instead, you are looking back in time. If you look at a star that is 20 light years away, the light you see began its journey 2 decades ago. If you look at a more distant star, you might be seeing light that started its trek when the pyramids were being built, or even before humans walked the earth. Scientists often call this fossil light. It is a remnant of the past, a ghostly image of a star's history delivered to the present day. The night sky is not just a canopy. It is a living library of time, where every pinprick of light is a different chapter from the history of the universe. As you lie there, let the weight of this realization settle over you like a soft blanket. You are not just a person in a room. You are an observer of the deep past, connected to the very beginnings of the cosmos by these tiny ancient messengers of light. There is a profound sense of safety in this scale. In the face of such immense time and distance, the small, flickering worries of a single day seem to dissolve. They are like mist in the morning sun, fading away to reveal the vast, permanent beauty of the universe. You are part of this grand, slow-moving story. The same atoms that make up the stars are the same atoms that make up your own body. You are, quite literally, made of starlight and ancient energy, resting in a moment that has been billions of years in the making. Feel the stillness of your room and compare it to the great silence of the cosmos. Out there, between the stars, there is a peace so deep it is difficult to imagine. It is a place where there is no noise, no wind, and no hurry. It is a state of perfect cosmic equilibrium. As you breathe in and out, and try to mirror that celestial quiet. Let your thoughts drift like those photons, moving effortlessly through the dark, unburdened by weight or worry. You are drifting into your own version of that great peaceful silence where the only thing that matters is the gentle rhythm of your breath and the soft, steady pull of sleep. The universe is vast, but it is also remarkably still. As we look further into that silence, we find that even the coldest, emptiest parts of space are filled with a very special kind of warmth, a faint ancient echo that tells us even more about the peace of the night. When we think of the space between the stars, we often imagine a void that is perfectly, terrifyingly cold. But science tells us something much more comforting. Space is not truly empty, nor is it a place of absolute zero. Instead, it is filled with a very soft, very old light, a gentle warmth that permeates every corner of the cosmos. This is what astronomers call the cosmic microwave background. You can think of it as the universe's oldest memory, a fading glow from the very beginning of time itself. Imagine a fireplace that was lit many, many hours ago. The flames have long since disappeared, and even the bright red embers have faded. But if you hold your hand near the hearth, you can still feel a faint, lingering warmth radiating from the stones. The cosmic microwave background is exactly like that. It is the afterglow of the universe's birth, a soft hum of energy that has been traveling through space for over 13 billion years. It is everywhere at once, a silent, invisible sea of light that cradles everything in existence. This ancient energy exists at a temperature of about 2.7 Kelvin. To our human senses, this would feel incredibly cold, but in the language of physics, it is a significant presence. It is just a few degrees above the point where all molecular motion stops, creating a state of profound cosmic stillness. It is not a cold that bites or stings. It is a cold that represents the ultimate peace. It is the temperature of a universe that is slowly, gracefully settling down. In its early years, the cosmos was a place of intense heat and frantic activity. But as the eons pass, it is spreading out, cooling, and finding its equilibrium. It is moving toward a long, quiet age of rest. There is something deeply reassuring about this cooling process. It suggests that the natural direction of all things, from the largest galaxy to the smallest atom, is toward stillness and calm. Just as the great expanse of space is slowly letting go of its ancient heat, your own body is designed to follow a similar path every single night. As you prepare for sleep, your internal temperature begins to drop ever so slightly. This subtle cooling is a biological signal to your brain that the day's work is done and it is time to transition into a different state of being. While the universe cools on a scale of billions of years, your own cycle of rest happens in a much more intimate rhythm. As you lie there, feeling the coolness of the air against your skin and the comforting weight of your blankets, your mind is beginning its own version of a nightly cooling. The frantic thoughts of the afternoon are slowing down, losing their heat, and fading into the background. You are entering a phase of restoration that is just as vital to your existence as the stars are to the sky. This transition isn't just a physical slowing down. It is a complex, beautiful, biological process that cleanses and renews you. As the external world fades away, a hidden system within you begins to wake up. Just as the universe has its background glow, Your brain has its own quiet, rhythmic processes that only truly shine when everything else is still. We are moving away from the vastness of the outer cosmos now and turning our attention inward to the quiet, miraculous work happening inside your own mind as you drift closer to the world of dreams. As your body settles into this state of cosmic-like stillness, a very special and quiet process begins deep within the architecture of your brain. Scientists call it the glymphatic system, but you can think of it as your brain's own nightly wash, a gentle, rhythmic cleansing that only happens when you are truly at rest. Throughout the day, as you think, move, and experience the world, your brain is incredibly active. This activity creates small amounts of metabolic byproducts, the natural remnants of a mind at work. While you are awake, your brain is too busy processing information to clear these remnants away. But as you drift toward sleep, the environment inside your head begins to change in a beautiful, physical way. Imagine a busy city street during the day, crowded with people and movement. When the sun sets and the street's empty, there is finally room for the cleaning crews to come through and refresh the pavement. Your brain does something very similar. As you enter the deeper stages of rest, the cells in your brain, the neurons and the supporting glial cells, actually begin to shrink ever so slightly. They don't lose their function. They simply pull back, creating more space between them. This increase in space, nearly 60% more than when you are awake, allows a clear, nourishing fluid called cerebrospinal fluid to pulse through the brain's tissues. This fluid moves like a slow, gentle tide, flowing through the newly opened pathways and washing away the quiet clutter of the day. It is a silent, microscopic river that flows only for you, ensuring that your mind remains a healthy, vibrant space. This process is most active during deep, non-REM sleep, the part of the night where your body is most still and your breathing is most rhythmic. It is as if your brain waits for the perfect moment of peace before it begins its most important maintenance work. There is a profound sense of positive renewal in this. Every night, your mind is literally being refreshed, polished, and restored. This is why, after a good night's sleep, the world can feel so much clearer, and your thoughts can feel so much lighter. You aren't just turning off for the night. You are participating in a deep biological healing. Your brain is tidying its house, tucking away the memories that matter, and clearing a path for the new ideas of tomorrow. It is a form of self-care that happens entirely without effort, a gift your body gives to itself while you dream. As this internal cleansing continues, your brain doesn't just stay in one state. It moves through a series of carefully timed phases, each with its own purpose and its own unique rhythm. This nightly wash is just one part of a much larger, more intricate map of rest. To understand how this restoration reaches its full potential, we can look at the very structure of your sleep. The way your mind moves through different levels of depth and stillness. This architecture of rest is what guides you from the first moments of drowsiness down into the deepest, most restorative waters of the night. The architecture of your sleep is not a flat, unchanging line. Instead, it is a series of descending waves, a beautifully structured journey that takes you deeper and deeper into the quietest corners of your mind. Scientists call this the sleep cycle, and each night you travel through it several times, like a diver descending into clear, still water and then slowly returning to the surface. This journey begins at the very edge of wakefulness in what is known as stage 1. This is the threshold, the gentle transition where you are neither fully awake nor yet truly asleep. During these few minutes, your muscles begin to relax and your brain waves start to slow down. You might experience a sudden brief sensation of falling, a phenomenon called a hypnic jerk. It is simply your nervous system's way of ensuring you are safe and comfortable before it lets go of the waking world. It is the first step of the descent, a quiet, all-clear signal from your brain to your body. As you move deeper, you enter stage 2. This is the bridge between the light surface and the deep interior. In this stage, your heart rate slows even further, and your body temperature drops slightly, creating the perfect internal climate for rest. Your brain begins to produce rhythmic bursts of activity called sleep spindles. These are like tiny shields, protecting your sleep by helping the brain ignore outside noises or minor disturbances. You spend about half of your total sleep time in this peaceful, protective middle ground, where your mind is busy organizing information and preparing for the profound stillness to come. Then the descent reaches its most vital destination, stage 3, or slow wave sleep. This is the deepest part of the night, the foundation upon which your physical and mental health is built. In this state, your brain waves change dramatically. They become long, rolling, and incredibly slow. These are called delta waves. While your waking brain is filled with quick, jagged electrical pulses, your sleeping brain in stage 3 moves with the rhythm of a deep, ancient tide. Delta waves typically pulse at a frequency of just 0.5 to 4 cycles per second. They are the slowest waves the human brain can produce, and they represent the ultimate state of restoration. As you lie there now, you might find it helpful to imagine your own thoughts beginning to stretch out and slow down, mimicking those long, graceful delta waves. Picture each thought as a soft ripple on a vast dark lake, moving slower and slower until the surface is almost perfectly still. There is no rush here. There is no urgency. Your mind is simply leaning into the natural, heavy rhythm of the earth. Feel the weight of your limbs, the softness of your breath, and the way your consciousness seems to expand as it slows. You are entering the frequency of healing. In this deep, slow wave state, your body does its most essential work, repairing tissues, strengthening the immune system, and releasing growth hormones. It is a period of total physical surrender. But as the cycle continues, the brain does not stay in this deep stillness forever. After a time, it begins to climb back up through the stages, moving toward a different kind of rest, one that is less about the body and more about the heart and the imagination. As you rise from the depths of the delta waves, you move toward the vibrant, mysterious realm of dreams, where your mind begins the delicate work of processing your emotions and making sense of the world you left behind when you closed your eyes. As you move from the profound stillness of deep sleep back toward the surface of consciousness, you enter a realm of vivid color and shifting landscapes. the world of REM, or rapid eye movement sleep. It is here that we dream. For centuries, the purpose of these nighttime stories was a mystery. But modern science has begun to uncover a beautiful explanation known as the overnight therapy theory. This theory suggests that dreaming is a deliberate, delicate process of emotional healing. It is the mind's way of sorting through the thousands of impressions, feelings, and interactions you gathered throughout the day, deciding what to keep and what to let go of. Think of your dreams as a safe, private theater where your mind can review your life without any real-world consequences. In this state, the parts of your brain responsible for emotions and memory are highly active, but they are working in a very specific, protected environment. It is a neurochemical sanctuary. While you are dreaming, a remarkable and unique biological event occurs. Your brain completely shuts off the production of noradrenaline. This is a chemical closely linked to stress, anxiety, and the fight or flight response. In fact, REM sleep is the only time during your entire life, day or night, when your brain is completely free of this stress-triggering molecule. This means that while you are dreaming, you can revisit emotional memories, even the ones that felt difficult or uncomfortable during the day, in a state of total physiological calm. It is like looking at a fire from behind a thick, cool pane of glass. You can see the intensity of the experience, but you cannot feel the heat or the sting of the flames. This noradrenaline-free environment allows the brain to process the information and strip away the painful emotional charge, leaving only the useful lesson behind. The payoff for this nightly work is profound. By the time you wake up, the events of yesterday may still be there in your memory, but they feel softer, more manageable, and less urgent. This is why a problem that seemed insurmountable at midnight often feels much smaller in the light of the morning. Your brain has literally slept on it, processing the data and restoring your emotional balance so you can face the new day with a more positive and resilient outlook. You wake up with your mental slate wiped clean of the previous day's chemical tension. This restorative process of dreaming is one of the many ways the natural world ensures that life can continue with grace and equilibrium. But humans are not the only creatures who have developed clever, specialized ways to find rest. As you settle deeper into your own true bed, imagine the vast variety of sleep strategies across the planet. From the deepest oceans to the highest branches, every living thing has found its own unique rhythm for recovery. Some of these methods are surprisingly tender, reminding us that even in the wild, the need for safety and connection is a universal language of the night. In the quiet currents of the sea, for instance, there are creatures whose sleep looks very much like a gentle embrace. Imagine, if you will, the cool rocking surface of the North Pacific. In these kelp-rich waters, the sea otter has developed one of the most endearing and practical sleep habits in the animal kingdom. Because they live their entire lives in the water, even their deepest rest must happen while floating. But the ocean is never truly still. Currents and tides are constantly pulling at anything on the surface. To prevent themselves from drifting away from their food sources or out into the dangerous open ocean while they sleep, sea otters often gather in groups called rafts. Within these rafts, something truly remarkable happens. As they settle into their rest, otters will reach out and grasp the paws of the otter next to them. They hold hands. This simple, gentle physical connection creates a living chain that anchors the group together. If one otter drifts, the whole group moves as one, ensuring no individual is lost to the night. It is a survival mechanism, yes, but it also fosters a profound sense of social bonding and collective safety. When they aren't holding paws, they might wrap themselves in long strands of giant kelp, using the sturdy sea plants like a natural anchor to keep them moored in place. There is a deep, quiet peace in the image of 100 otters bobbing gently on the swells, tethered to one another and the earth below, surrendered to the rhythm of the waves. It reminds us that even in the vast, unpredictable wild, there is a drive toward connection and stability. This need for rest is so fundamental that nature has engineered incredible workarounds for creatures who cannot simply stop and lie down. While the otter finds safety in a physical anchor, other animals must find a way to rest while remaining in constant motion. Think for a moment about the great travelers of the sky. Certain birds, like the alpine swift or the frigate bird, spend months at a time in the air without ever touching the ground. They cross entire oceans and continents on the wing. You might wonder, as they glide through the thin, cold air of the upper atmosphere, how they manage to find the sleep their brains so desperately need. They cannot hold paws with a neighbor or anchor themselves to a tree. They are suspended in the infinite blue, miles above the earth, where the wind never stops blowing. The solution nature provided for these aerial voyagers is as elegant as it is mysterious. It involves a specialized type of rest that challenges our very definition of what it means to be asleep. It is a state where the mind is neither fully awake nor fully dormant, but exists in a perfectly balanced middle ground. This leads us to a fascinating biological phenomenon known as unihemispheric sleep, a way of resting that allows an animal to keep one eye on the world while the other closes in a dream. It is a secret shared by the masters of the sky and the guardians of the deep, who must navigate a world where stopping entirely is simply not an option. In this state of half-slumber, the brain achieves the impossible. It finds restoration while the body continues its journey through the dark. Imagine the ultimate form of multitasking, a gift from nature that allows for deep rest without ever truly letting go of the world. This is the reality of unihemispheric sleep, a specialized state where only one half of the brain sleeps at a time. While the birds of the high atmosphere use this to navigate the winds for weeks on end, the masters of the deep ocean, like the dolphin, have perfected it into a rhythmic art form. For a dolphin, the ocean is a place of constant movement and hidden shadows. Their survival depends on a unique biological requirement that differs greatly from our own. Unlike humans, dolphins are what scientists call voluntary breathers. This means that every breath they take is a conscious decision, a physical act they must remember to perform. If they were to fall into the kind of heavy, total sleep that we enjoy, where the entire brain surrenders to the darkness, they would simply stop breathing. To solve this, their biology has developed a beautiful and necessary compromise. When it is time to rest, the dolphin allows one hemisphere of its brain to sink into a deep, slow wave sleep. During this time, the opposite eye, the one controlled by the sleeping half, closes gently, but the other half of the brain remains awake and alert. It monitors the surroundings for any sign of a predator, and more importantly, it ensures the dolphin continues to swim to the surface at regular intervals to take in fresh air. After a period of time, the brain performs a seamless handoff. The awake side begins to drift into its own slumber, and the side that was resting wakes up to take over the watch. There is a quiet and meditative grace in this process. Often, dolphins in this state will engage in what is known as logging. They float near the surface, moving very little, looking like smooth driftwood bobbing in the swells. Other times, they might swim slowly and steadily in a circle, their bodies tracing a soft, repetitive path through the water. It is a state of being that is both here and not here, a peaceful duality that ensures their survival in a world that never truly stops. They are dreaming with one eye open, anchored to the physical world by a thin thread of consciousness, while the rest of their mind recovers. This reminds us that nature always finds a way to ensure rest is achieved, even when the environment demands constant motion. It is a testament to the power of the brain to adapt and protect itself, finding pockets of stillness in the middle of a vast moving sea. It shows us that rest isn't always about a total stop. Sometimes it's about finding a rhythm that allows for recovery while the journey continues. As we think about these dolphins drifting through the water, we can begin to see that movement and stillness are not opposites, but two parts of the same whole. Even when the body is perfectly still, and even when the mind begins to quiet, there is a secret world of motion happening all around us and within us. If we look closer, past the surface of the water and the skin of the earth, we find that everything, even the most solid-looking object in your room, is alive with a very specific kind of energy. From the vast migrations of the sky to the rhythmic breathing of the ocean, we now turn our focus inward, down to the very foundation of matter itself. Just as the dolphin finds a way to balance movement and rest, the smallest building blocks of our universe are governed by their own laws of motion and stillness, vibrating in a quiet, invisible dance that never ends. If you were to look at the very air around you or the soft fabric of your pillow through a lens powerful enough to see the smallest building blocks of existence, you would see that nothing is truly still. Every single atom that makes up your world is in a state of constant, tiny vibration. This is what scientists call thermal energy. In a profound sense, heat is simply the speed of this microscopic dance. When something is warm, its atoms are bouncing and jostling with a high energy excitement, moving quickly and unpredictably. But as things begin to cool, as the sun sets and the air grows crisp, or as your own body temperature drops slightly in preparation for sleep, this dance begins to change. The movement doesn't just stop, it becomes more rhythmic. It slows from a frantic pace to a gentle, steady hum. Imagine a busy city street at noon filled with the chaotic energy of thousands of people moving in every direction, a blur of motion and noise. Now, imagine that same street in the quietest hours before dawn, when the only movement is the slow, rhythmic sweep of a distant breeze or the long, steady shadows of the trees. This is the transition the universe makes as it cools. The energy isn't disappearing. It is simply settling into a more peaceful, orderly state. There is a theoretical point in physics known as absolute zero. It is the coldest temperature possible, sitting at minus 273.15 degrees Celsius. In this state, the laws of classical physics suggest that all molecular motion would come to a complete and total halt. It is envisioned as a place of perfect crystalline silence, where every atom rests in its lowest possible energy state. Interestingly, scientists have discovered that reaching absolute zero is actually impossible. No matter how much we cool an object down, there is always a tiny lingering pulse of energy that remains. This is known as zero-point energy. It is as if the universe itself refuses to ever truly go silent, maintaining a small, quiet spark of life even in the deepest cold. As you lie there now, take a moment to notice the profound stillness of the room around you. To your eyes and ears, the furniture, the floor, and the very air you breathe seem perfectly motionless. But there is a quiet comfort in knowing that they are all humming with this deep, fundamental vibration. You are resting in a sea of microscopic stability. The heavy wood of a nightstand or the cool glass of a window pane isn't just a solid object. It is a collection of billions of particles vibrating in a slow, harmonious unison. They are holding their shape for you, providing a stable environment where you can let go of your own tension. Just as the atoms in your room are slowing their vibrations to match the cool of the night, your own internal state is following suit. Your heart rate has slowed, your muscles have uncoiled, and your breathing has found a deep, predictable rhythm. This physical stillness is the essential foundation for a quiet mind. When the physical world and your internal world both reach this state of low energy equilibrium, the boundaries between you and your environment begin to soften. You are not just a person trying to sleep. You are a part of a vast, cooling system, moving toward a state of perfect, natural balance. This stillness is not an absence of life, but a different form of it, one that is focused on restoration and the simple, beautiful act of being. In this state of quietude, even the smallest movements take on a sense of grace. The way a single dust mote drifts through a shaft of moonlight, or the way the air moves softly through the room, follows a hidden logic of balance and ease. This is the fundamental direction of the universe, a gentle leaning toward a state of rest. As your thoughts begin to mirror this physical slowing, you might find that they no longer race or jump from one topic to another. Instead, they begin to drift, moving with the same slow, purposeful energy as the atoms cooling in the night air. This transition into stillness is the most natural thing in the world, a return to the underlying rhythm of everything that exists. If we could look even closer than the vibrating atoms we just explored, we would see a beautiful jittery dance called Brownian motion. Imagine a single microscopic particle of dust or a tiny grain of pollen suspended in a drop of perfectly still water. Even though the water appears motionless to our eyes, the particle doesn't sit still. It jiggles. It hops and drifts in a spontaneous zigzag pattern, pushed around by the invisible, energetic molecules of the water itself. This movement is completely random, yet it serves a profound purpose in the grand design of the physical world. It is the hidden mechanism behind a process called diffusion, the way nature ensures that everything eventually finds its place and spreads out evenly. Think of a single drop of blue ink falling into a clear glass of water. At first, the blue is concentrated, a tight, energetic swirl of color. But because of this constant microscopic jostling of molecules, the ink particles are gently nudged further and further apart. Without any stirring and without any external effort, the blue eventually fills the entire glass, becoming a soft, uniform tint. The universe does not like things to be cramped or tense. It prefers them to be spread out, diluted, and relaxed. This is a fundamental principle of science known as entropy. While we often hear entropy described as a move toward disorder, in the context of your rest, it is perhaps more helpful to think of it as the universe's natural tendency to seek a state of perfect, quiet equilibrium. It is the ultimate cosmic relaxation. Energy always wants to move from where there is a lot of it to where there is very little. Heat moves toward the cold, high pressure moves toward the vacuum. This isn't a violent or rushed process, but a slow, inevitable leaning toward balance. It is as if the entire cosmos is trying to exhale, letting go of all its concentrated tension to achieve a state of ultimate rest. This balance is the natural end state of all energy. When you feel yourself letting go of the day's stresses, you are participating in this universal law. You are allowing your own internal energy to diffuse, to soften, and to blend into the quiet atmosphere of the room. You're moving toward your own state of personal equilibrium, where nothing is pushed or pulled, and everything simply is. This journey toward balance doesn't always result in a simple spreading out, however. Sometimes, when conditions are just right, the universe seeks balance through a different kind of stillness, a structural perfection that emerges from the depths of the earth. While the particles in a liquid or gas dance randomly in their search for space, the atoms deep beneath our feet are engaged in a much slower, more patient process. They are finding their forever homes, locking together in patterns that will remain unchanged for millions of years. This brings us to the silent, hidden world of crystals, where the search for balance creates some of the most stable and beautiful structures in existence. In the cool darkness of the crust, a different kind of quiet energy is forming, one built on the slow, steady geometry of time itself. Deep within the silent, heavy layers of the earth, a remarkable kind of patience is unfolding. While the world above is filled with movement and change, miles beneath the soil, atoms are performing a slow, rhythmic dance toward perfection. This is the birth of a crystal. It is a process that doesn't measure time in minutes or hours, but in millennia. In the immense heat and crushing pressure of the deep crust, individual atoms move with a purposeful, unhurried grace. They aren't just bumping into one another. They are looking for their exact, rightful place in a grand design. When conditions are just right, perhaps in a pocket of cooling magma or a vein of mineral-rich water, these atoms begin to lock together. One by one, they find their neighbors and click into place, forming what scientists call a geometric lattice. Think of it as a vast, invisible grid where every single point is perfectly aligned. This isn't a random heap of matter. It is a masterpiece of organization. Each atom is held in place by the strong, steady bonds of chemistry, creating a structure that is both incredibly strong and incredibly still. This is the ultimate expression of the equilibrium we spoke of earlier. In this state, the atoms have found their lowest possible energy level. They are no longer searching, they are home. This journey from chaos to order requires two things that are often in short supply in our daily lives: immense pressure and vast amounts of time. The very weight of the earth, miles of rock pressing down from above, provides the force necessary to squeeze these atoms into their tight, orderly rows. Without that pressure, the crystal would never find its strength. And without time, sometimes millions of years of slow, steady cooling, the atoms wouldn't have the chance to find their perfect alignment. If a crystal grows too fast, it becomes cloudy or irregular. But when it is allowed to grow in the deep, undisturbed silence of the earth, it becomes a window of pure, transparent stability. We often hear people talk about the energy of crystals, and from a scientific perspective, there is a beautiful truth to this. The energy of a crystal is not a frantic or buzzing thing. It is the energy of structural perfection. Because a crystal's atoms are so perfectly arranged, the entire object vibrates with a single unified frequency. It is the physical embodiment of calm. There is no internal conflict in a diamond or a piece of quartz. There is only the peaceful, unwavering strength of a lattice that has reached its final form. It is a state of being that is completely at rest, yet possesses a clarity that can survive for eons. As we bring our thoughts back from the deep heat of the Earth's interior toward the surface, we can find these same minerals in the palm of our hand. There is a reason why humans have been drawn to gemstones and smooth river stones for thousands of years. When you hold a cool, polished piece of amethyst or a simple, heavy stone of granite, you are touching the result of that ancient, patient process. Your skin registers the temperature of the mineral, usually slightly cooler than the air around it, and the weight of it feels grounding. The symmetry of a gemstone is a visual signal to our brains that order is possible, that even out of the most intense pressure, something stable and beautiful can emerge. This sense of stability isn't just something we see, it's something we can feel through our connection to the physical world. Just as the atoms in a crystal find their place and hold it, we too are constantly interacting with the Earth's vast, steady energy. We are never truly separate from the ground beneath us. Even now, as you lie still, you are supported by the very layers of rock and mineral that have spent millions of years finding their own quiet balance. It is a silent partnership, a constant exchange of energy between the living world and the ancient geological one. This connection goes deeper than we often realize, reaching down to the very electrons that move between our bodies and the soil. This connection to the Earth's minerals leads us to a fascinating concept often called grounding or earthing. It is the idea that we are not just standing on the planet, but that we are electrically linked to it in a very literal way. The surface of our world possesses a subtle, natural electrical charge, a gentle negative pull of electrons that is constantly renewed by the sun and the rhythmic movement of the atmosphere. It is, in a sense, like a giant, soft battery that never runs out of power, humming with a frequency that has existed since the dawn of time. Our bodies, too, are electrical beings. Every beat of your heart, every movement of a muscle, and every quiet thought drifting through your mind is a tiny spark of electricity moving through your nervous system. In our modern lives, we often spend our days insulated from the ground. We wear shoes with rubber soles. We walk on synthetic carpets, and we live in buildings high above the soil. This insulation can sometimes lead to a buildup of what some scientists call a positive charge in our tissues, which can be linked to the physical tension and subtle inflammation we feel after a long day of work or screen time. The theory of grounding suggests that when we make direct physical contact with the earth, skin to soil or feet to sand, we allow our bodies to synchronize with the planet's own steady frequency. This exchange of electrons acts like a natural stabilizer, neutralizing the noise within our own electrical systems. While the science of earthing is still a growing field of study, many researchers have observed that this simple act can influence our physiology in deeply restorative ways. Many people find that spending time barefoot outdoors significantly reduces their perceived levels of stress, lowers their heart rate, and helps regulate their cortisol levels, the hormone that keeps us alert and awake. It is as if the earth itself is inviting us to let go of the day's frantic energy and return to a state of neutral, quiet balance. You don't need to be standing outside right now to feel the benefit of this idea. Simply the thought of being grounded can begin to shift the way your body feels. I invite you now to take a slow, soft breath and bring your awareness down to the very ends of your body. Imagine the soles of your feet touching the cool, soft grass of a quiet meadow at twilight. Visualize the sensation of the earth yielding slightly under your weight. The blades of grass feeling cool and damp with the first hints of evening dew. Feel that gentle coolness traveling up from your feet through your ankles and settling into your legs. It is a feeling of being completely supported, completely safe, and entirely connected to something much larger than yourself. As we move toward these final stages of our journey tonight, we are settling into a state of deepest relaxation. We have felt the stability of the ground, the slow growth of the minerals beneath the crust, and the quiet flow of electrons between the soil and our skin. We are becoming heavy, anchored by the same gravity that holds the oceans and the mountains in place. Our thoughts are becoming as still as the deep stone. But to truly understand the profound peace of our home, we must sometimes look at it from a different perspective, not just from the ground up, but from the silent, vast reaches of space looking back down at us. Our journey is expanding now, rising slowly from the grass and the soil toward the very edge of the world where the air meets the stars. As you drift further into this state of quiet reflection, imagine your perspective beginning to lift. Gently, effortlessly, you are rising above the meadow, above the trees, and even above the soft gray clouds. You are moving toward the very edge of our world, where the deep blue of the sky fades into the infinite velvet black of space. In this place of absolute silence and weightless calm, you experience what astronauts call the overview effect. It is a profound shift in consciousness that happens the moment a human being looks back at the Earth from a distance. For the few who have stood in the stillness of orbit, seeing our planet for the first time is not just a visual experience, it is an emotional and cognitive transformation. They describe seeing the Earth not as a collection of separate countries or distant continents, but as a single, fragile, glowing marble hanging in the vastness of the void. From this vantage point, the atmosphere, the very thing that gives us life and breath, appears as nothing more than a thin, shimmering ribbon of electric blue, a delicate veil of silk protecting everything we have ever known. Scientific studies on the psychology of spaceflight have found that this perspective often leads to a heightened sense of positive energy and global unity. When you see the world as one interconnected system, the artificial boundaries we create on the ground seem to vanish. There is a sudden, overwhelming realization that every person, every forest, and every creature is part of the same living family, sharing the same breath and the same journey through the cosmos. This sense of awe and kinship creates a deep, resonant peace within the mind, a feeling of being part of a beautiful, harmonious whole. From this distance, the scale of our lives changes. Think for a moment about the things that may have weighed on your mind today, the small frustrations, the lists of tasks, the quiet anxieties about the future. From the silence of the stars, those worries are completely invisible. You cannot see the traffic from here. You cannot see the deadlines or the disagreements. You see only the soft, steady glow of city lights on the dark side of the planet, like clusters of fallen stars, and the brilliant, swirling patterns of weather systems moving slowly across the oceans. The world looks so quiet, so patient, and so incredibly safe. This perspective allows you to let go. It invites you to recognize that while your life is precious and unique, you are also held within a much larger, much older rhythm that has been turning for billions of years. The Earth knows how to sustain itself, and your body knows how to rest. There is a profound comfort in knowing that, from the perspective of the universe, you are exactly where you need to be, safe and protected on this beautiful, drifting home. Now, as we begin to bring this vast perspective back down to the present moment, imagine yourself slowly returning. You're descending gently back through the layers of the atmosphere, through the cool night air, and back into the quiet sanctuary of your room. The stillness of space remains with you, but your focus is narrowing now, returning to the small, rhythmic movements of your own life. You are back in your bed, back in the warmth of your blankets, carrying that sense of cosmic peace with you. As your body settles further into the mattress, you might find that your mind is ready to engage with the simple, soothing patterns of the world around you. Just as the Earth turns in a predictable, steady cycle, your own internal systems are beginning to find their own rhythmic, low-stress flow. As you settle back into the quiet of your room, you might notice how comforting the small, repetitive patterns of life can be. There is a specific kind of peace found in simple, rhythmic actions, the kind of tasks that don't require much thought, but keep the mind moving in a steady, predictable loop. You may have experienced this while walking a familiar path, watching raindrops race down a window pane, or perhaps while performing a hobby like knitting or sketching. These moments allow the mind to unspool, letting go of the tension that comes with making complex decisions or solving the day's problems. This mental space is often referred to as a flow state, a term used by psychologists to describe a period of total immersion in an activity. While we often think of flow as something high energy, like an athlete in the zone, there is a much gentler version that occurs as we prepare for rest. It is a quiet flow where the brain stops scanning for threats or new information and begins to revel in the familiar. The brain is, at its core, a prediction machine. It is constantly trying to guess what will happen next to keep you safe. When you engage in or observe a repetitive, rhythmic pattern, you are giving your brain exactly what it wants: total predictability. This certainty signals to the nervous system that the environment is secure, allowing the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for the fight or flight response, to finally stand down. As this happens, your brain's electrical signature begins to change. During the busy hours of the day, your mind is likely humming with beta waves, fast, choppy oscillations that reflect active thinking and external focus. But as you sink into the rhythm of the present moment, those waves stretch out and slow down, transforming into alpha waves. These waves, which vibrate at a frequency of about 8 to 13 cycles per second, are the brain's bridge to the dream world. They represent a state of relaxed wakefulness, where the internal chatter of the mind begins to fade into a soft, indistinct hum. Scientific studies have shown that entering this alpha state not only lowers your heart rate, but also reduces the levels of cortisol in your bloodstream, physically preparing every cell in your body for the restorative work of the night. You can find this rhythmic flow right now, without moving a muscle. Your breath is the most fundamental, perfect repetition you possess. It is a slow, steady wave that has been with you since the moment you were born, a constant companion that requires no effort to maintain. As you lie there, feel the weight of your body against the mattress and simply notice the rise and fall of your breath. Don't try to guide it or change its pace. Just observe the loop, the cool air entering, the slight pause at the top, and the warm, effortless release. In and out, in and out. It is a biological lullaby, a rhythmic anchor that keeps you grounded in the safety of the now. Allow your thoughts to become like those alpha waves, long, smooth, and gentle. As the big questions of the day dissolve into this steady rhythm, the mind becomes clear and quiet, like a still lake at dawn. In this state of peaceful clarity, we can begin to look at the world through a smaller lens, focusing on the tiny, wondrous details that often go unnoticed in the rush of the day. These are the micro facts of our existence, small, beautiful truths that are light enough to carry with us as we drift toward sleep, reminding us that even the simplest parts of our world are filled with quiet, hidden magic. These facts don't require heavy thinking. They are simply there to be appreciated, like the soft patterns of light on a ceiling. Imagine, for a moment, a single white cloud drifting across a summer sky. It looks like a handful of pulled wool, or perhaps a soft, ethereal feather, weightless and fragile. But in the quiet world of science, that cloud is far from light. A typical cumulus cloud, the kind that looks like a fluffy cotton ball, can weigh over 1,000,000 pounds. It is a massive, heavy presence suspended in the air containing hundreds of tons of water. It seems almost impossible that something so heavy could float so effortlessly, yet it does so with a grace that defines the horizon. This happens because that 1,000,000 pounds of water is spread out into trillions of microscopic droplets, each one so small that the friction of the air almost stops them from falling. At the same time, the air beneath the cloud is often warmer and more buoyant than the air within it, creating a gentle, invisible updraft that cradles the cloud from below. The cloud isn't struggling to stay aloft. It is simply being held by the atmosphere, resting on a cushion of rising warmth. This is the beautiful paradox of the world above us. The sky is a place of immense weight that feels entirely weightless. We walk beneath millions of tons of atmosphere every day, yet we don't feel the crushing pressure of the air. We only feel the softness of the wind and the vastness of the blue. In this same way, you might be carrying weights of your own, the lingering thoughts of the day, the responsibilities of tomorrow, or quiet worries that seem to have settled in your chest. Like the cloud, these things can feel heavy when we measure them. But right now, in this space of rest, you are invited to be like the atmosphere. You have the capacity to hold these things without being burdened by them. You can let the steady rhythm of your breathing support you, allowing the heavy things to simply drift, suspended and harmless, while you remain still. There is a profound lightness of being that comes when we realize we don't have to solve every problem to find peace. Just as the cloud moves because it is part of a larger balanced system, you are part of a biological cycle designed to find its own equilibrium. As you lie here, feel that sense of lightness spreading through your mind, even as your body feels pleasantly heavy against the mattress. You are floating in the quiet now, supported by the simple, undeniable fact of your existence. This feeling of sinking, of being pulled toward the deep comfort of your pillow, is a physical reality governed by the long journey of your day. Just as the atmosphere has its subtle pressures, your body has been building its own kind of weight since the moment you opened your eyes this morning. It is a gentle, persistent force that signals to your brain that the time for doing is over and the time for being has begun. This is a process known as sleep pressure, a biological accumulation that makes the prospect of rest feel not just like a choice, but like a homecoming. This biological weight is driven by a tiny, remarkable molecule called adenosine, which acts as your body's internal ledger for time spent awake. From the moment you opened your eyes this morning, your brain has been active, processing a constant stream of information. Every sight you saw, every word you heard, every subtle shift in your environment required a small spark of energy. As your brain cells burned through that energy to keep you present and engaged, they naturally produced adenosine as a byproduct. You might imagine it as a soft, invisible snow that has been falling silently within the landscape of your mind all day long. In the early morning, the ground was clear and the air was crisp. But as the hours passed, this gentle snow began to accumulate layer by layer, filling the valleys and softening the edges of your thoughts until everything began to feel a little more quiet, a little more still. It is this accumulation that creates the profound and necessary sense of sleep pressure you are experiencing right now. It is a physical reality, a chemical signal that tells your brain it has reached its capacity for the day. This is why, as the evening deepens, the world seems to lose its sharp edges, and the pull of rest becomes almost magnetic. When you feel that heavy, pleasant ache in your limbs, or the way your eyelids seem to want to close of their own accord, you are feeling adenosine at work. It is binding to the receptors in your brain, slowing down the firing of neurons and whispering to your nervous system that the time for outward action has ended. It is this very pressure that makes your pillow feel so extraordinarily soft, transforming a simple piece of fabric into a sanctuary. The mattress beneath you isn't just a surface, it becomes a cradle, perfectly tuned to the weight of your body as you finally allow yourself to be held by the gravity of the night. There is a fascinating and vital truth to this cycle. Sleep is the only way to clear this molecular ledger. While the world offers many ways to feel temporary bursts of alertness, nothing can truly wash the brain clean like the deep rhythmic cycles of the night. As you move into the coming hours, your brain's lymphatic system will become significantly more active than it is during the day. It will move through the crevices of your mind, gently clearing away the day's molecular buildup and resetting your energy levels for the morning to come. It is a complete restoration, a biological reset that ensures you can wake up with a mind that is once again light and clear. You aren't just losing consciousness. You're entering a state of high-level maintenance that can only happen when you are at your most still. Take a slow, quiet breath and acknowledge that you have earned this transition. You have navigated the complexities of the day, and now your body is rewarding you with the gift of rest. There is nothing left to achieve, no more thoughts that require your immediate attention, and no more energy that needs to be spent. You are simply a part of a natural, healthy process that has been refined over millions of years. Your body knows exactly what to do. It is prepared, it is ready, and it is inviting you to descend into the quiet. Feel the last remnants of the day's tension dissolving into the sheets, replaced by the comforting, heavy presence of sleep pressure. You are drifting closer to the threshold of deep rest, where the weight of the world finally falls away, leaving only the soft, steady rhythm of your breath and the profound peace of the dark. The day is behind you now, and the stillness of the night is waiting to take you the rest of the way. We have reached the final transition, the threshold where the last of the day's echoes fade from the mind and the quietest part of the night begins. This is the moment where the boundary between the waking world and the world of dreams becomes thin and translucent. It is a space of total permission to let go, to stop wondering, and to simply gust in the soft, dark velvet of the present. Think back for a moment on the journey we have taken together through the quiet landscapes of science and nature. We have traveled from the inner architecture of your brain, where the default mode network hums with gentle contemplation, to the furthest reaches of the cosmos, where ancient starlight travels through the vacuum of space just to reach your eyes. We have felt the steadying influence of the moon, which keeps our world from wobbling, and we have breathed in the scent of petrichor, that chemical signal from the earth that tells our oldest instincts that life is sustained. We have walked through silent forests where trees whisper to one another through the soil, and we have dived into the deep glowing galleries of the ocean where creatures make their own light. All of these things, the chemistry of a smile, the cooling of the atmosphere, the rhythmic physics of the waves, are part of a single, grand, and peaceful system. And you are at the very center of it. Every process we have discussed tonight has been leading you here, to this state of profound equilibrium. Your body has followed the instructions of its internal clock. The melatonin has done its quiet work, and the pressure of the day has finally been balanced by the pull of the night. As you drift now into the deepest layers of rest, there is a beautiful, constant truth to hold on to. Your body remains a marvel of quiet, automatic care. Even as your conscious thoughts dissolve like mist in the morning sun, your heart continues its steady, life-sustaining rhythm. It is a gentle, unhurried pulse that requires no effort from you. In the stillness of the night, your heart beats in a slow, rhythmic dance, perfectly synchronized with the long restorative delta waves now beginning to sweep through your brain. This is the ultimate form of safety, the knowledge that while you let go of the world, your body keeps a faithful watch, maintaining the breath and the beat that sustain your life. You are being looked after by the very biology that makes you human. The journey for tonight is complete. The stars are in their fixed places. The earth is turning with effortless grace, and your mind is finally ready to surrender to the deep, dark sea of sleep. There is nothing more to learn, nothing more to solve, and nothing more to remember. You are a part of the vast, peaceful machinery of the universe, and you are exactly where you belong. You are safe, you are tired, and you are ready. May your dreams be as light as a floating cloud and as restorative as the cool, fresh air of a mountain peak. May you wake feeling as renewed as the earth after a gentle rain, with a mind that is clear and a heart that is light. But for now, there is only the silence, there is only the dark, there is only the peace of the deep. Sleep now, rest deeply. Good night.